So we are directly jumping to the next contribution, which is presented by Uwe Gebler. Uwe Gebler is working for Infineon. He's Senior Director for Development at the Center in Dresden for Infineon Technologies. And he's presenting perspectives regarding edge AI, contributions of the semiconductor industry to AI. So, Uwe, the stage is yours.
Yes, thank you very much for the introduction. I'm just sharing my screen and will wait a second until you give me the confirmation that you see the right one. Full screen mode should be available now.
It's incoming, perfect. We can see it, perfect.
It's perfect, thank you very much. Okay, so I will start into my presentation and I will talk about contributions of the semiconductor industry to AI, especially to edge AI in a second. Before I do that, I will introduce my colleague, Nico Kelling. Nico is the co-author of this talk, and Nico is the head of the Center of Excellence for AI for Infineon, located in Munich at the Campeon. And I thank you very much, Nico. And we are both then ready for your questions at the end of my talk, but I will do the talk now. And I start with a question, and this is why AI and why now? And I think many of you here in the conference can confirm that artificial intelligence can contribute to solve many of the global issues of our time. And many of the applications for that are already real and around us. But there's also a lot of hype around AI, and much of the hype has to do with data. And that's why, and also why, or the second reason is that we are the Big-Data.AI conference today. I will give a little bit more insight in data here. We live in a world of data, and the global data sphere will grow from 45 zettabyte in 2019, which is already a lot, to incredible 175 zettabyte in 2025. We talk about a billion terabytes, and nearly 30% of all the worldwide data will then be processed in real time. Yeah, and this is, even if there is a lot of hype around AI, and AI is basing on data a lot, it may be the so far fastest paradigm shift in technology we've ever seen. And this is one of the reasons why we are also very interested to get the right things to be done. Looking a little bit deeper into these possibilities, the question is, we know AI will change very many things dramatically, but AI has its limits, and AI cannot be the solution for everything. So what we currently know and see, and this is also related to data, perhaps the biggest strength of AI systems is the ability to detect patterns and rules in large quantities of data. For example, for images or sounds, this AI system can do this much better than humans. But AI may also solve particular tasks better than humans, but many tasks are restricted to exactly the task itself, and there are a lot of tasks which cannot be predicted by AI and AI-based solutions. One example is COVID-19 for the moment, which is very prominent, of course, for each of us. You cannot predict with an AI system who of a population of humans has COVID-19 and who hasn't. So this is not possible. And it shows there are many possibilities, but a lot of limits. And at the end, AI does not release us from the need to understand the insights of each application. We as humans must really carefully consider the effect of technology to human users, and we at the end decide what is the right area for AI to apply and what is something which does not make sense to try to use AI. So AI is not the solution for every challenge we have currently. But there keeps a rest, and the rest is really very huge. Let me show some examples. I think AI can make a substantial contribution for many things. We have quality of life. We will see much more comfort and security at even lower cost than today. Looking to energy efficiency, many more power with less resources is possible, especially if you think about the edge opportunities we have. I will have more details in a second. We will see many new opportunities in mobility, more freedom of movement in urban and narrow spaces, more flexibility in communication with less effort. And even if we look into the the working world, we will have a very much stronger cooperation between human and machines. Especially we as semiconductor industry see this effect a lot. I come from a semiconductor manufacturing site here in Dresden, and we cooperate with machines since many years, since quite a while, also with free moving robots. But I see there are still a lot of improvement possible until we have really this seamless interaction between human and machine. And this requires AI. So a lot of things can be done. Now the question is, and this is the main question for the talk today, what are the contributions of semiconductors and the semiconductor industry? And we at Infineon, but this is not only valid for us, we at Infineon use AI in two directions: in the processes to produce and manufacture innovative products and solutions on the one hand side, but also in our products. We are step by step, we go more and more also in the area of making chips for AI. And I have then also examples from the Infineon Development Center in Dresden showing you what we are doing in this area. But what we believe as Infineon is that semiconductors are the link between the real and the digital world, and I will give you later on the examples for that. But we start with this picture looking into two directions, the process-centric side and the product-centric side of AI. Looking again into a semiconductor manufacturing, we know this process-centric data engineering, today called AI, since many, many years. When I was a young engineer in the mid of the 90s of last century, so quite a while ago, I already started simply with the task to derive information out of big data. We would call it big data today. We did not call it big data at that time. And we did a lot of effort over the last decades, I would even say, to improve our technologies, our processes by using data. And AI came more and more into the game in the last years to get the last 2% of automation, of process automation, and of manufacturing automation. This is the side where the semiconductor industry was really a front runner for process-centric AI for the whole industry. On the other hand side, we are providing enabling technology for AI. We are providing the chips, and hardware is the key enabler from my perspective and from the perspective of the semiconductor industry for new customer experience and also for sales growth. Both reasons are, of course, very valid to generate more business in the area of AI with individualized content and a better or a completely different customer interaction, or with simply AI-powered products and services. So both sides are very important, and on both sides, semiconductor industry provides a lot of contribution in the area of AI. And at the end, it then brings me to the question, and I started with that: what is the position of semiconductors then into this world of real-world application and the digital world we are talking about today almost each day? And we are the linking function in between. We see the real-world applications on the left-hand side: battery-powered devices, power supplies, IoT devices, the drives, the smart home applications, the sensors in the consumer IoT, 5G applications, automotive, all the mobile things. This is the real world. And on the right-hand side of the picture, the digital world. Often we call it cloud and cloud-based world. And in between, we have semiconductors for all the functions to connect both worlds. We have the sensors who collect the information out of the real world. We have the computational units who make just the computation of the functions. We have then actuators to react, to give information back into the real world. Security is all around, and software and ecosystem is inside. And I have in a second also the difference between edge and cloud. Here is it also mentioned, but in fact, for all the functions, for all the connections between the two worlds, semiconductors are necessary and required. And looking into today's world, we very often talk about cloud AI. most of the training, most of the inference workload is happening in public and private clouds. This is flexible. This is very scalable. Many models are relatively big, requires a lot of data, so you need data centers for calculation. But what we see is that edge, the so-called edge AI, is more and more emerging. It's a very fast developing market. And the reason is simply that we now bring the intelligence more and more into the end consumer device, into the edge device, into the mobile device even. And this is what we call edge AI. We have then edge mobile applications, for example, for many different things, image and object recognition, predictive maintenance, material handling, keyword detection, very prominent, present detection, more and more. And such approach to bring intelligence from the edge, from the cloud into an edge system has a lot of benefits. It gives you more privacy, for example, because there is no longer a need to send all the data into a cloud-based system. If you think about picture data of real human, not needed if you have the intelligence on the edge device. You have more power efficiency because a lot of the energy is just required for sending data between cloud and device back and back again. Latency is improved, of course. So many benefits which you can gain if you are able to bring AI, you bring intelligence on the end user device. So that's why we see a clear trend that the AI chipset market will outpace the cloud market even already in 2025. Very important to know, you need in many cases specific hardware for that, especially in those cases if you want to run it mobile, with battery. And this is then a new requirement for the whole semiconductor industry, which we are providing currently, giving the opportunity to really be able a complex thing like a more complex neural network to run it on an edge device. It requires also improvements in modeling. And this is also the reason why a cloud is not obsolete. You will not have a situation later on that you do everything, even the training on the edge system. This is not the way what we think will come. It will happen more in a way like that. You will still have the cloud system. You have a set of training data. This is all in a cloud and data-based central system. You do the verification. You do the validation of the model very carefully. This is a lot of work to do. At the end, you have a trained model. And when you have a trained model, then you can, in a specific point in time, deploy the model on your edge device, maybe on a specific piece of hardware. And then you get what we call the edge system, the AI edge system. And this is, from our perspective, for many applications, the thing what we will see in many broad applications in the future. Looking into some examples now. I take one example, and this is radar technology. The reason is because that Infineon is world market leader in radar, and so we are very familiar with that, and we even produce radar chips, radar technology here in Dresden. Radar is long established over many applications: aviation and marine, geology, meteorology, automotive. All of you have contact in the daily life with radar, but combining now radar with AI on an edge device gives a lot of new, very interesting options for new applications. One very prominent at that times is people counting and entrance control. So with the COVID situation, many areas require such a new application, which is accurate, can count people, the right numbers, anonymous. You do not need cameras for that. There is no longer a reason to have pictures of real humans, and this makes such systems very anonymous and secure from a data perspective. It's contactless. It's also relatively cheap, and this is the reason why we see more and more such types of applications. There are even much more possible. You can detect vital signs. You can do gesture and motion classification. Even material classification is possible. And what we do in Dresden for that is we develop the little piece of hardware which is specific necessary to build a really efficient IoT edge AI device, combining a sensor, combining a neural network together with a piece of hardware which is especially customized to run this neural network very efficiently. And this gives then a smart sensor system, which can be integrated, for example, in a battery-driven device like a mobile phone. Dresden has been started, the development center Dresden has been started in 2019, so 2 years ago. And we have the focus of automotive products, but also AI, artificial intelligence. And we are especially developing hardware combined with software and IP solutions for embedded AI. The focus is on edge applications. This is closer to the product, but we also have research activities together with partners and universities in the area of neuromorphic hardware. We have a little bit more than 60 people on board currently, and plan to grow a lot, and we will employ 250 people in the mid and long term. So, and to summarize a bit now the situation, what we have and what we needed as semiconductor manufacturers, we see that many things are needed to build a complete edge AI machine learning based IoT system, so to say. We need the sensors, we need the edge processing, we need security, we need connectivity. It must be scalable and deployable. And we as Infineon have everything on board today and have everything available today to serve you with such types of hardware and system contributions. With that solutions, we make your IoT application work. This brings me now, and I'm today also presenting out of Dresden, to a last remaining perspective. Silicon Saxony is member, and Infineon is member of the Silicon Saxony, and Silicon Saxony is Europe's biggest ICT cluster, combining hardware, software, and connectivity. And since we are the cluster in Europe for microelectronics already, it is a very logical idea and way for Infineon to develop own competencies, especially of the hardware makers, also in the direction of hardware for embedded AI and future AI solutions. And this is the reason why I introduced this also in my presentation today. And I want to show you some details of what we do here. This is a picture of the region combining the Saxony, of course, and Dresden, the Chemnitz region, the Leipzig region. We talk about 2,400 companies with more than 60,000 employees in the Silicon Saxony today. And interestingly to know, every second to third chip produced in Europe is made in Saxony in many key areas. And currently, there is a clear tendency in two directions visible. We have a big growing in the area of software, and we are developing ourselves. And here I talk especially for the hardware players. We are developing ourselves in the area of the hardware for new applications like AI. And looking a little bit deeper now into the landscape here, you see an aerial view of Dresden, River Elbe here in the upper part. This is the north of Dresden, so to say. Many big players, manufacturers, software and hardware makers are located in a small area of a couple of square kilometers in the north of Dresden. We have a very new fab of Bosch here. We have Global Foundries. We have X-Fab with a location. We have Renesas with a development site here, many Fraunhofer institutes, and Infineon, of course. You see the aerial view of the Dresden site with the manufacturing modules for 200 millimeter and 300 millimeter, 200 millimeter in the middle, the smaller ones to the left, 300 millimeter. And I'm currently sitting here in the building on the right-hand side of the picture. So this power of hardware is the reason why we also look into what can be our contributions to the next level of applications in Europe especially. And this is one part of the answer is hardware for AI. And this was then the starting point and the reason why we talked together with all the companies, the players, about key recommendations for action for Saxony. Saxony is currently working on a AI strategy for the Free State, and we came up with 4 key recommendations. I only want to discuss 2 of them. The first one is, again, the hardware and the software technologies with focus on edge AI, neuromorphic, explainable AI, and a secure European cloud. And second is, and this brings me to the last foil of my presentation, we also made the proposal, and not only a proposal, we have started already to build together an AI campus in Saxony, in Dresden, as a lighthouse with a big international appeal in the field of AI and its applications, with links to many of the things which are planned in the region here. One last few insight, there is already a company existing driving this called Innovation Campus Dresden. And we work with them. It's a private initiative. We work with them a lot to create an international visible ecosystem here in Dresden for the rapid implementation of innovations in the field of AI. The focus is clearly on edge AI and will be later on also on neuromorphic and other solutions. But embedded AI is a special chance for Europe. And we as semiconductor industry and semiconductor players want to take this chance and make out more business in this area. And hopefully the AI campus will help on that way. To summarize at the end, we believe that we know that semiconductors are the enablers for widespread value creation with AI, especially in edge applications. AI is a game changer. Edge AI is a fast developing market currently, offering opportunities for many new embedded solutions. And especially edge AI with the security, with the power efficiency, with the good latency is a differentiator in that game. And Silicon Saxony at the end is on a good way from a pure microelectronics maker to a global embedded AI solutions hub. That's it for today from my side, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much. And my colleague Nico Kelling and I are ready for your questions now.
Thanks a lot, Uwe. As we just a little bit over time, I will just summarize up briefly what I found really interesting regarding your considerations. It's super interesting to see how Infineon is part of the ecosystem in Saxony on the one hand, and on the other hand, I found it super interesting to see how Infineon is really moving forward in this edge AI or the edge ecosystem in general, and it's therefore ready for the edge revolution as you summarized it. So given the time, and we don't want to steal the time from the next presentation, I would just jump to the next presentation, but feel free to connect to the colleagues from Infineon in the platform during this day and during the other day, during tomorrow, and to reach out to them. And we also have their contact data in the presentation being uploaded at Swapcord. So feel free to reach out. Thanks a lot for your interesting considerations, and see you soon. Thanks a lot.